Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Estella Van Ladris. I am Kai. I use he, they, and she pronouns, and you are back for another episode of Seems Right, my show about costuming and storytelling. You might notice there's a fun little addition over here that we'll get to in just a minute. But first, as always, just a reminder and kind of a centering. It is a dark time to be a marginalized person. It has been for much longer than this year, and it is important that we reach out to each other, to community, to build meaningful and lasting ties outside of establishments, governments, or other faceless digital spaces. Part of why I started this channel is to offer free information and education for those who want it, in hopes that it might remove systemic, personal, or financial barriers that would keep this from being accessible, because I believe the only way forward is together. Thank you for being here, but also I urge you to find one person and connect with them. Be there for each other. Community is how we will be here long after this era of darkness passes, just as we have always been. My genuine hope is always to not only share this wonderful space with all of you, but that you go and you sit with friends, with family, with loved ones, with partners, and talk. Maybe it's through a camera, maybe it's in person, but face to face with somebody, because that is, I think, the most human connection that we can have, is to look at someone and communicate with them. In caring for each other, we must also not forget the world that we live in. We should fight for the freedom of those oppressed around the world, especially those facing genocide, violent oppression, and systemic persecution. I stand with the people in Sudan, the DRC, Palestine, and all oppressed peoples of the world, especially those that are currently being persecuted by their own governments, and urge you not to forget them in this time of hardship. That all being said, and kind of segueing into my new friend over here, I'm so excited. If you're enjoying my streams, please consider following, and if you're able to, subscribing. I am an independent content creator, and all of your support, such as the extremely exciting addition of this new top-down camera over here, all supports me, and helps me bring more content to you all. So thank you 1,000 times for the support that allowed me to get this, and I got it so quickly because I had already shopped it, and I was so excited. Oh my god. Thank you, Azra. Thank you for the... Oh my god. Is that a hype train that I just was zipping through? Oh my god. Okay, so we'll get to some of the fun things that are coming up now that we have the new camera. But first, if you like what I do, please follow. If you've got, the money to spare and throw my way, subscribing helps a lot. It removes those ads. Otherwise, just watching the ads is actually extremely helpful to me. It does help pay for all of this and keep me fed and excited to come back every week with all of the things working and all of the gack all happening. And it allows me to make improvements that will help make things better and bring exciting new things, like an upcoming sewing basics class that I'm going to be offering basically at the end of Seems Right. We're going to go over a little bit of sewing, not today, but very, very soon. Just kind of walk through some very basic sewing things. So not only will Erica be sewing, who's in chat right now, who I know is sewing, but also we can all be sewing together, because I think sewing is a vital skill that often gets overlooked for very systemic, sexist, and kind of annoying reasons. So please join me in the future for sewing time, as well as dice camera, and I've also added a new channel point redeem. I have a stack of tarot decks right here. If you don't know, my show Lori's House is a tarot based game. I have been reading tarot just kind of casually for years. And I really enjoy it, and I know it's something that a lot of other people in the community enjoy. So one of my newest, highest redeems is I will pull a card from my tarot decks that I will keep at least one of over here at all times. And I saw an inaugural show us your dice on the new camera. So we're going to start from zero, like I've never shown you dice before, because this camera is amazing. Ignore the fact that it makes my hand look like a ghost. This goes back to why you need makeup on camera. because it looks okay over here. It looks really bad over here. But that's fine. I'm not hand modeling. I'm showing you dice. So first and foremost, oh my gosh, is that the Lust for Life X Sam Star in my chat? I'm going to show off some beautiful dice right now. Okay, so I showed you these a long time ago. This is one of my original PBTA D6 sets that I am absolutely in love with. And tragically, the shop that makes them, I think, closed. And so I cannot even get more of them, but they are some of my favorites by far. They are Arcane Sigil dice. Let's see here. Oh, wait, why am I showing you small when I can make it so big? There we go. We're going to put my dyslexia to the test. So they are the sigils on them. The number of lines are the number for the pips. And I absolutely love these dice. Yeah, and I got them in 2 colors because I thought they were very arcane. I use them for wizards and magic and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So thank you for all of your incredible support that helped make this camera happen. I love it so much. I set it up immediately when it got here, and I've just been enjoying how nice and high resolution it is. I will be using it to show you pictures and physical media, like this really cute picture I have of Darby from Big Bad Con from a couple years ago. So I can just show you physical things now on my desk as we talk about them, which I think is going to be so helpful. And it will make it so that I can show you things like sewing. And I see we have our also first inaugural tarot card pull. So Azra, as the very first tarot card, I will be pulling from one of my favorite decks. This is actually the deck that I used for Lori's house. So this is the Wild Unknown Tarot. It's absolutely beautiful. It's this like inky, dreamy tarot deck. And it's so beautiful. So I'm just going to shuffle them up real quick and dirty. And let's see what you get. So I'm not a big like rote memory person in general, kind of in life. So I will be cracking open the book to read some of these, but I do like generally get the vibes and stuff for tarot, and then I just double check my work. Okay, so we have the 5 of Swords. This is a beautiful card. It is a picture of a... Actually, I can zoom it in. I have that power. Look, everybody. I can just zoom it in. Unparalleled power. So this is the 5 of Swords. There is a limit to how many of these can be redeemed per stream, just because I know that they do take up time. So the 5 of Swords... Self-destruction. A card of warning. The 5 of Swords depicts the destruction of the self. You'll be lured into another situation or argument you know to avoid. Your selfishness and desire for power will lead you to defeat. Pain and discord will result. So this is a card of warning to not be drawn into things that could destroy you. You know, as with all warning and negative cards in tarot, they're often more a caution than they are a judgment. So to take it and understand that this card is warning you to stay away from things that might cleave you in two, like this earthworm. Yeah. So that's for you, Azra. Thank you so much for the inaugural pull. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm obviously very excited, and it's got this nice background. Oh, we're very zoomed in. I forgot. So hopefully in the future, as we look at stuff, I will be able to share it all with you. I'm so excited. So thank you for joining me thus far on my journey and where things go next. I'm going to put this deck away for now. Okay. So outside of that, since we are actually also here for Seems Right, speed of the rest of the opening stuff. First of all, all of my VODs go up on YouTube pretty promptly now. I'm almost entirely caught up in the backlog of VODs. I just clip out the opening, the break in the middle, and the very, very end. And any like major errors that might come to pass. Okay, it is fully focused. And outside of that, it's pretty much just as streamed. So if you miss a stream or you're looking for an old VOD, it's all over on YouTube. And I am hoping to kind of build that up a little bit more. So if you are enjoying this stuff, and especially if you're going to go check out the stuff over on YouTube, it'd be a huge help if you also click that subscribe button over there, and it is free. If you just subscribe to my videos, it'll just, you know, let YouTube know that you're interested in more of my content. And you can always click that alert button for when those VODs do get uploaded. And over time, I am also chapter marking all of them, so that they are easier to cross-reference. So I know that a bunch of you are very excited about my Zynon makeup Get Ready With Me. So that one has been chapter marked way earlier than a lot of the other stuff. But I've done like 6 now or something like that. It's just time consuming. So when I have the time, I've been doing it. And thank you to everyone who's been over there liking and watching videos and commenting over there as well. It really does help. And I'm very excited to just be out there where people are actually like enjoying the content that I'm making. It feels wild that I get to tell people this stuff and people go, yay, thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, there's so many wonderful people in chat today. Hello to the Sam Star, to, oh my gosh, Youngles, Jen, all these wonderful TTRPG performers all in my chat. Okay. So the subject for today is we're going back to our work that we did last week building Awlee, our Hexblood Artificer that we built as a community. We chose Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It's a wonderful universal kind of language that a lot of us speak in the tabletop community. And we went through and we talked about how to build a character using inspiration and kind of a guide through storytelling, and talking about telling a story as a table, and how you all, in the case of Awlee, are the co-world builders, table mates, and co-crafters of this character with me. And so kind of jumping over into how to, let's do that. How to then turn that into actionable character design. So I've got Awlee up over here. And a blank HeroForge. And so what I want to do is just kind of talk through some of the mechanics. We're going to pick some spells. I don't think I picked any spells for Awlee last time. And then we're going to go through and I'm going to talk about like kind of the general idea of how to break down mechanics, especially in a really dense character sheet like this. But even in a like more broad PBTA style, or even like breaking all the way out into like a lyric game, taking something that has any kind of mechanics and then crafting it all to the end of telling the story that you want to tell. And so starting over with Awlee, we built all of this stuff. We've kind of created, to kind of recap who Awlee is, this person who was from a small town. Maybe they were a little bit of a like urchin vibe, but then they were with their sister plucked up by the Fae and lost in the Feywild for many years and came back different. Awlee started as a half-elf and became through their time in the Feywild, a Hexblood, and learned to craft arcanely from just being like interested in woodcraft and things like that, growing all the way up to being quite proficient with tools, to the point where they can craft things like their steel defender, which in this case is going to be a wooden defender, I think named Bramble, because I think that that's adorable. A big wooden dog. We have a question in chat. Indie Wanderer asked, one thing I'm in awe with your AP character creation, especially as I watch Doomsayers, is how unique all of your characters are. How do you avoid same character syndrome? generally, I think if you start from an interesting and unique place and pursue that to the heart of it. So like Merrick started with Patroclus. Like that was the genesis of this idea, is what happens when you take Patroclus, who for me as a long-term like lover of the Iliad as a story, how do I take a character that I think deserves to be a little jaded and actually show that jadedness versus playing a different kind of jaded character. So like I played Road Theolis over on Outrunners on Happy Jack's RPG, who is the 17th son of a very long-lived space family. And Rhodes jaded in a very different way than Merrick is. And so just keeping kind of the truth of like where they start very front and center, even as I create the mechanics, even as I create like aesthetics, all the way down to mannerisms. I kind of I make touchstones as part of it. So like Merrick's big touchstones are Patroclus, like 80s gay culture. I choose a face, usually an actor or a character from a cartoon or something, to kind of at least the joke is always like a bad accent, a bad impersonation is now a character. Like that's how that works, especially in like voice acting. And I kind of take that all the way over and kind of just say like, if this person were playing this character, but you know, the way I interpret it, how would they exist? So Merrick's face is Oscar Isaac. Versus Zynon's face is an actor named Bob Morley from The 100, and they have very different everything. And so then just creating these touchstones to craft very different people, even if they can be very similar, because like Zynon's also pretty jaded as a person early on, especially. And taking, how do you show that differently, keeping these people in mind? I hope that helps at all. Yeah, the big strokes of it is doing all of this work that I'm hopefully helping you learn a little bit more about, is kind of how I not only decide what those things are, but then I keep them consistent. So like when I look at my character sheet, I can decide, oh yeah, that's right, Bramble's my steel defender. He's made of wood. And the whole story as to how an artificer makes a steel defender out of wood is a very cool character touchstone. So, okay. So, Awlee. Fairy tale kind of inspired artificer who came back, changed, and now has now is in a world that wasn't in an apocalypse and now is, and the adventuring party that Awlee and I think probably their sibling are a part of is trying to help save a world that is mid-apocalypse, a prosperous world that is still slowly irrevocably dying. And so we kind of zoom back into this character sheet that we've made. And I'm going to start by enlarging just the character sheet, and we'll get back to kind of the HeroForge is mostly there to create a visual of the choices that we're making. Alrighty, I'm going to zoom in so we can read together since I know the text is small. Hopefully you can read a lot of that. There we go. That's pretty zoomed in. So, first things first, we're going to talk about spells. Because at least for big games that are very modular like D&D, Blister Bean says, would a steel defender made out of wood be a stump defender? It is now. You're correct. So one of the things I always really love about playing games like D&D that have a lot of really modular pieces is getting to pick things like spells and weapons and fighting styles and all of that stuff, because again, there is no thing too small that you can't put a little bit of character in. I famously will go through my D&D Beyond character sheets and rename things for my own amusement. Awlee needs spells. We can know a lot of spells because we're pretty smart. And given that their origin is a folk urchin slash Feylost person, I'm vibing very like ethereal, magical, fey type magic, but also again going to that very practical artificer, like this spell does this things and it will help us stay alive in the Feywild. And sometimes I'll get so granular on D&D related stuff that I'll go like level by level and decide where they were at that level if it's a game that's starting not at first level. We're not going to do that today. I don't think that's necessary for this, but just to tell you, like, it goes all the way down. You can make these decisions at the most granular story level, and then you're creating mechanics based on story, and then you're going to then craft flavor, thus story, around the mechanics. So it's all a circle. You just kind of, I would say, I just work it around until it all makes sense. So we're going to start with some cantrips. Cantrips are easy for those who are only lightly initiated into Dungeons and Dragons. Cantrips are spells that you can freely use. There's a limited, well, freely as in like it doesn't cost you spell slots. The thing that most people at least kind of know about in D&D, they don't cost you spell slots to use. So this is going to be the things that if you're just walking around, you just be like, that. So a lot of them are really basic utility things like light, where you can just make something glow with light. I think that Awlee, because they have a sister that they are very close to, and they're not telepathic, and the Eerie token, which is a Hexblood ability, is more than just a, like, it only has a certain amount of time. I think that we absolutely have to give them Message, which is a spell that 25 words or less, you can communicate with someone over a slight distance. It's basically giving the teenagers walkie-talkies. That's how it's used in most games that I've seen it in. And I think that that's wonderful. Oh my goodness. What are we even talking about? You guys are so funny in chat today. Oh, what are we talking about? I'm trying to catch up. Oh, we're talking about finding tables to play at. Yes. I believe that there's so much there. That's so exciting. Lena's talking about the fact that I have officially brainwormed her with this build. We've done it, everyone. We've made a character that at least one person can't stop thinking about. Okay, so I think that mending is a very cute cantrip to have as an artificer. And that's it. Do we need to give them combat cantrips? Maybe? They have tools. We don't need mending. We have tools for that. I'm tempted to give them I know all these spells very well, and I'm trying to think of like what is the they can have Spare the Dying? I haven't built an Artificer in a while. Let's see. I think, by the way, you will find that I am the least min-maxy person you'll ever meet. So Erica's asking what Awlee's pronouns are. I've been kind of going with they, he pronouns for Awlee. But I've definitely noticed that I favor they, them pronouns. So I'm rolling that marble around. Because partly, again, the one of the original inspirations of how we got here was Hansel and Gretel. Ooh, mirror pronouns would also be cute. I do love mirror pronouns. I just think that's a really, like, neat and affirming thing in general when I've experienced it. I'm gonna chew on it. We're gonna chew on it. You know what? We're gonna do Thorn Whip, I think. Kind of going with the bramble and the very like fairy tale, dark fae kind of vibe that I've been kind of chasing with this. I'm trying to not spend too much time on it, but I love picking spells, so I'm like staring deep into the spell list, which is so not necessary. So yeah, listen, Sam, I know it hurts you. I understand, and I respect a min-maxer in my heart and soul, but I have played a character that has like flat 13s across the board for all of their stats, and it was fine and funny for me. Because I love a character that can fail at things pretty regularly. It tickles me. Okay, let's pick some first levels. Alarm is a must if you're a paranoid Feylost, I think. I think Fairy Fire is a must. And this is genuinely how I pick my spells, because I know kind of what they all do, and I'm thinking of like the story. So the reason why I said Alarm is a must again, like that paranoid, traveling through the Feywild with your sibling, Alarm will wake you up if someone crosses a barrier so that you can know to move. Oh my gosh. You're right. We all need a good min-maxer on our table, or in the case of some of the people I play with, like an accidental min-maxer. I've played with a few people that just always roll stats well. It's a whole thing. And then I chose Fairy Fire because A, the name, but also like Fairy Fire as a spell, rules as written, is described as just like ethereal light that just clings to things, and it's the most like fae thing as far as just like you're now glowing a little and it's easier to hit you. And it's one of the things I like about Artificers is they can be both a buff debuff character and a combatant. And Fairy Fire is one of the best spells for that, in my opinion. And it's an AoE, so you can be like, oh, there's 4 people all standing right there. Boom, Fairy Fire. I'm only going to pick, like, I think 2 more before I move on, because this is taking so long. I'm going to go with Sanctuary, which is a spell that just means, like, people have to think twice before hitting you. And we're going to go with Grease for the Artificer vibes, and if there's time, we'll come back and choose more spells. Okay, so we're going to talk about how all of this looks on a character, avoiding, I think, what are easily to fall in tropes based on bioessentialism and some, I think, misconceptions of how stats would actually execute in the real world, in my opinion. So like a strength 0 character doesn't have to be skinny and it doesn't have to be Captain America pre-Super Soldier Serum. They could be Captain America almost at the, like, well, they don't have to be Captain America at all. They could also be, you know, someone who has a lot of body mass. It just might not be very executable as a strength mechanic. And then like a low dex character doesn't have to be someone who is necessarily not deft with their hands. It could be someone who, for whatever reason, like maybe they always wear too much stuff and they can't move quickly. There are a lot of other ways to explain these. And for Awlee, I picture them as being kind of just like very straight line, non-shaped person. And this is not just like the gender of being just like non-curvy, non-Dorito shaped, but just like there's something very profoundly correct to me about someone who's just like a line. Oh my gosh. So I picture Awlee as being kind of not overly tall. I love a short king. I will make characters short just because it tickles me greatly. I myself do not consider myself short, and I love characters that are short, especially because of all of the, like, so many people make tall characters. Looking at you, Second Stranger cast. And honestly, we're not short in the Chaos Protocol either, but I love a short character. Merrick is short. I think it's very funny. It amuses me. I like characters that are short. Because they see the world differently, quite genuinely. I've known so many people who are like 5 foot and shorter. And I value their, no, you can't tell me I'm short. I love that. So I borrow that with love for characters that are definitely not what they would consider to be tall. I'm picturing Awlee being like a somewhat masked non-binary 5'3". Because that amuses me. I think that that's a fun place to start, and plus then we can do that like very wizard core thing that is very like Pinterest wizard. I don't know. I'm really digging this vibe. And then intellect, wisdom, and charisma are not necessarily external things at all. They're more about how you deal with things internally. And the mechanics in Dungeons and Dragons support that as well when you can change into other things. The things that change are your strength, dex, and con usually, and not always your intellect, wisdom, or charisma, depending on your kind of magic that transmutes you into something else. So I picture Awlee being, I mean, they have almost villager stats for their strength, dex, and con. Villagers in Dungeons and Dragons are flat 10s. And I just love that. I don't know. That just tickles me. So that would be how I would externalize a 0, a +1, and a +1. Is someone who doesn't have a big built body type or a particularly like they don't have broad shoulders. They don't have like good mechanics in their body for being able to lift heavy things. They're just kind of like a stick person. And I love that. So I'm going to go back over here and we're going to talk a little bit about HeroForge and why I love it as just like a concepting thing. That's right, it's over here. So for species, we're going to go with half-elf because Hexbloods largely look like their original type. And I'm going to adjust. First of all, I hate this base pose. I want to see them with their arms down. If you don't know, HeroForge is a free-to-use, amazing mini builder / just 3D modeler program for characters. They have stuff for everything. They sponsor a lot of programs and shows that I'm on, and I love them because they're very easy to use, and you can do some pretty wild stuff, especially in the paid tier. And I have a bunch of HeroForges around in my life. I'm not going to be Connie and shove one into the camera, but I do have some. I'll leave that for Spawny. Okay, so the thing we're talking about right now is the body. So, ooh, they have body proportion options. We've added fat proportions on HeroForge. I'm so excited. That tickles me. Actually, I did not know this. I have so many things that I want to go change now. So, height. They give you an approximate height estimate for the mini as you have already built it. I'm going to make them not muscular, not super skinny. Some curves. Don't worry, we're not keeping almost anything you see here. I'm just looking at the body. Smaller scale upper. Head, hands. Finger thickness. That's a new slider that I have not seen. Wow. Okay. They've given me more things, which is always good. Give them more. Oh, those are... That says wrist, not waist. Interesting. Okay. I'm learning new things about HeroForge every day. Okay. So I'm thinking this is about the body type for Awlee, based on what we were just talking about. Yeah, Sam, look me in the eye and behave. Okay. So that's body type. And at this point, this would also be where if I have decided to kind of go with using at least inspired by a person, this is when I might also have a picture of them up. I haven't decided on one for Awlee. I've just been kind of like vibing. But I would also maybe have a picture of them up and then decide what to keep and what to change on maybe a person that I am being inspired by. One of the most recent, like, oh, this is an inspiration point that if I had designed this would be my inspiration point, but I was watching Andor. This is not really a spoiler for Andor so much as there's a character that I think was heavily inspired by real life Florence Nightingale, at least visually. And every so often I'll look at her and I'll just be like, yeah, this is Florence Nightingale in Star Wars. And so someone just took kind of just the general vibe of Florence Nightingale, the way that she dressed, kind of her face, kind of the way she styled herself, and then put it in Star Wars. And I just think that that's kind of useful as a shorthand, and then you change it with love and care and turn it into something else entirely. And being inspired by other things, there's no new thoughts under the sun, so you may as well do something different with them. You know, that's kind of my general thought. And in tabletop, it's always steal from the best. Steal from the world around you, steal from the best, so long as you're not hurting anybody, and so long as you're not using Gen AI, because there's a bunch of other problems with that. But steal from things around you that inspire you. There's no reason not to. Let's see here. Yeah, we're talking about like interesting ways to deal with like starting stats and things like that. There's so many ways to do it. Like I said last time, I'm a firm believer in if you don't total to 72, that's almost a not fun character, especially if other people in your party have significantly higher stats. Because then you can almost not do anything. I'm knocking things over under my desk, which is why I keep looking down. And it's me, not the cats. Okay, so I don't believe that there's any like one way to show things like skills, unless you are someone who also like maybe uses tools, but then tools mechanically in D&D are a different thing. So sometimes I might think about it in the design of like how they might move, what they might do. So like someone who's more proficient in Arcana might be more prone to having like magical things involved in their garments, but they won't necessarily like externalize that. They could just know a lot about magic, and that's fine. But maybe someone who's stealthier, design-wise, might not have a lot of shiny things, might not have a lot of like tinkly little loose jewelry or like big flowy garments. They might be a little bit more stealthy, or they might not be. Again, this is not one prescriptive thing, but it's something to think about. Is like, oh, if this person's good at survival, maybe they have a lot more like rough and tough gear, the way that it's designed. And for like sleight of hand, one of the things I often think about as a person who used to train in things that are like sleight of hand without doing crime. I did not do crime. I can, however, put a sticker on someone's back and they'll never notice. Things that I used to do at my old job. And so like that kind of stuff, I think about like how to facilitate that. So like maybe not wearing very heavy gloves and things like that. Or if maybe this goes back to dexterity as well, maybe it's someone who, if they maybe have a higher dexterity, maybe they're most comfortable in very specific kinds of shoes, very well fitted shoes. Maybe they're barefoot all the time. Going back to the Bilbo Baggins of it all, like hobbits have big feet, but being barefoot is one of the quietest ways to walk. So let's talk more about the bigger stuff for me, where I get a lot of my inspiration for character design is actually in class features, spells, and equipment. So artificers are really fun to do this with because they have a lot of stuff that they can do. Artificers are big, like I mean they're makers, right? So they have tools. They very often will be working on things. There's whole mechanics around the right tool for the job. You can just make a set of tools that you need. I think that that's so cool. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to talk about, spellcasting and spellcasting focuses. So unlike wizards, they don't need a spell book. This is more like knowing how to craft things is your way of casting spells. And to that end, one of my favorite things is that specifically you must have a spellcasting focus, and it must be a tool. Thieves' tools or some kind of artisan tool in hand when you cast a spell using Artificer things. And this is not to like nickel and dime you on the rules. This is, hey, this is an invitation to decide how you cast spells and what that looks like. So taking that and saying, how do we take Awlee's carpenter's tools that I think they've been using since they were a kid and turn them into a magic imbuing device? And taking that as an invitation to then think about how would someone who was lost in the Feywild, that learned that they could magically imbue the world with magic by crafting, have things like all kinds of little saws and chisels and carving tools and awls and things like that. Like, what does that look like then to cast with magic? And flavor wise, it would be very cool to do something where, like maybe you take a awl or a what are they called? The shaving tools that they use for wood carving. And like maybe part of your spell casting is literally taking one of those tools and very quickly just like carving a rune into a piece of wood and flipping it into the air. And that's your spell casting. And it doesn't matter if the spell that you're casting requires that as a material component or anything like that. That is how you flavor casting spells. And maybe later on you take an L because you're in a situation where you can't do that. And mechanically you might be allowed to do it, but maybe for the flavor you don't. I've definitely fully lost whole turns of combat just because the flavor and the story was the most important thing. Ooh. Yeah. A lathe. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I love taking just like simple things that are given to you. Instead of taking mechanics as this is how you play the game, I am the person who will I read TTRPG books wrong. I maybe design them wrong. But I think that it's very fun for me. And so I hope that this is helpful for you. But I take most mechanics as an invitation to tell a story and to put character in every little facet. And so I don't think of spellcasting focuses as a limitation. I think of them as an invitation for me to cause more havoc. And so maybe the tools are Awlee's tools from childhood, and it's one of the very few things that they've kept with them all this time. And it's neat also because then knowing that, and kind of the beauty of that is that also I then know that as an artificer, the right tool for the job ability means that the tools that they've had since they were very young can be anything. And to me, that is also the promise of magic, is something that you love, something that you care for, can become something that you need, something that you want, something that narratively benefits you, mechanically benefits you, but also something very precious and dear, like a very worn, when wooden tools, when they're very, very worn, and even if you've cared for them very well, they get darker over time because they start to absorb like your hand oils and maybe some like finish from the things you've been working on. For me, the moment that I realized that I was an artist, which is so funny because I was in grad school when this happened, was looking at a paint palette that was a complete mess. And so loved tools to me are so special. You know, they have little metal nicks on them and things like that. If you want to hear me talk way more about why I love this stuff, I do have an entire episode of Seems Right called Dirty Laundry, in which half of it is me just expounding the like joy and love that I have for things that are dirty and crunched up, broken, pieced back together, hodgepodge. I love that stuff because that is story. Picturing Awlee doing magic with a tiny spoon. You know, wooden spoons, like love spoons, would be a really fun, like, magic, like, casting, right? I don't know how much you know about love spoons, but they're, like, wooden carved spoons. There was a bunch. I went to Wales quite a bit for a couple of years. I love Wales. I have friends there, and they're big into big carved love spoons. That have big, beautiful knotwork in them. And it's a very, like, meditative practice to carve knots. Carve knots, Celtic knots. Yeah. And there's something very, like, arcane to me about the practice of wood crafting, because you, like, work it and you think about it. This is the whole idea of, like, imbuing your work with meaning and intention. That I think is very cool for magic casters in particular, in any story, in any mechanic. Because you have to think really hard about what you're doing. You have to care about it a lot. You have to really want it. Yeah. Okay, so all of that is to say that, like, spellcasting focus for Awlee, I think it is the tools, but also I think it is those tools. It is the tools that were in their pocket when they ran away to the Feywild, or when they were brought. I love the idea of maybe one of the siblings thinks that they ran away to the Feywild, and one of them thinks that they were kidnapped. And it's just like a just fundamental perception difference. Okay. Oh, Lena gave me a hydrate like 12 minutes ago. Okay. So that would be the spellcasting focus. But now we look at the different things that you can do with that. So infusions are something that can do a bunch of things with artificers. They allow you to create items. They allow you to imbue items with certain things. So, what are we asking? Which one is Awlee? What are we talking about? Oh my gosh, everyone's talking about their wonderful TTRPG characters in chat. I love this. Kintsugi is actually, Sam, keep an eye on that. That's something that I have held on to for a very long time, and I think about it often in regards to the Chaos Protocol. It is one of my favorite things on this earth. Oh, I think that Awlee is the one that maybe thinks that they ran away to the Feywild, because I picture Awlee as being the more naive of the two of them. The one that is taking, like, intentionally trying to protect, but is also the one that is being protected. I love two characters that have very different perspectives on the same situation. It is, I think, one of the most fundamental and human things. To like have two people experience the same thing for completely different perspectives. And I think that Awlee being the more, like, optimistic one in this case, of like, well, we ran away. It was better that way. I think works very well for someone who eventually would be in a situation that would slowly turn them into a Fey. Okay. So infusions, in this case, going back to the spellcasting focus, even though I don't think you have to use your spellcasting focus, the idea is that you can imbue magic into things. So the infusions that we chose... Where do they keep them these days? Artificer infusions. Yes, I know what they all are. Where are the ones that we chose? Maybe... This has always bothered me. Infuse item. No, it just says that I've used it. D&D Beyond? I need you to be cool with me here. I know they're in a funny place. Inventory? Maybe it's an inventory. Infusions. Perfect. We've done it. So, I'm going to look at equipment, which is a good starting point, and I'm a firm believer that you can reflavor your equipment to anything. It will depend on the table that you're at and what everyone's game for, but I love being like, okay, so my light hammer is, in this case, is a hammer, but I've done some stuff where it's like, oh, my light hammer is actually a rock that's tied on a stick. That's a hammer now. It's a hammer because I say it is. Mechanically, it does about the same thing, and there's flavor-wise no reason not to. The studded leather we talked about before, I think, is leather that has like things added onto it from the Feywild that maybe over time they've collected. A little bit like having a adventure scrapbook, but from the Feywild. So now I've equipped things. We have that. So infusions. The infusions that we have: enhanced defense, enhanced weapon, returning weapon. Returning weapon. Okay, so I think that the hammer maybe was originally the hammer from the tools, and like maybe it still is. And I love the idea of being able to throw the light hammer and have it come back magically. That tickles me because we're doing like Thor, but not at all. We've done it. So now the light hammer has returning on it. And the way that you can show that is so many different ways, but I love the idea that artificers might take their tools and like etch very quickly something into it that creates that infusion process. You can only have so many at a time. It's like having standing concentration spells, but with your craft. You don't lose concentration on them, but and then Bag of Holding, magically created, which means Awlee is literally just deciding. Oh wait, I lost it. Equipment. No, I lost it. Infusions. Okay, no, it is. It's there. Equipment. All. Alright, Bag of Holding. There it is. So now Awlee can just make a Bag of Holding on nothing, which means it could look like anything. It could be anything, because Awlee's just going like, that's a Bag of Holding. Boom. Sam, I know that I'm speaking your language because you do this too in really beautiful and wonderful ways. So this is just infusions and spell casting just overall. When we come back, it's about to be break time, we will go a little bit further into some other features, and then I'm going to talk about spells and why I love them in D&D and how to flavor them and then inform your character design. And then we're going to go and we're going to quickly build a HeroForge of Awlee, just to sketch out. Because all of this is genuinely how I build my characters. It just depends on the system and what they're for. But this is basically how I build all of my characters. Yeah, there's a reason why I will also always make play spaces. For those of you who don't know, I do make digital game basically character sheets, and I make them for Transplanter. I make them for most games that I'm going to end up playing, because to me this is an accessibility tool. I have real gnarly ADHD sometimes, especially when it comes to tracking like this amount of information on paper. My brain just goes, I don't really want to do that. Like as a GM, I take the worst in session notes, but then I record it and I will I have a whiteboard down here at the bottom of my desk that is just a mess of 2 words. And those 2 words will help me remember exactly what I needed to add to my notes. The same thing goes for me as a player. But systems like this to me are accessibility tools, because this is how I remember anything about my characters. And so I love D&D Beyond, and it is, to me, one of the most accessible ways of keeping track of Dungeons and Dragons, because there's so many things to keep track of. And because of it, I build, NPCs and stuff like that in like 2 seconds. I have to make a new NPC for my players to interact with, and they have to be a leveled hero. Give me like 5 seconds. You just keep talking. You won't even know I'm doing it. And I'll have made a rolled, flushed out, class level character in D&D Beyond to use to interact with them. I play with people who need pen and paper. It couldn't be me. I used to try pen and paper old school style, and I've played a few games that was the only option because they were playtests and things like that. And ooh, buddy, it's a good thing I've gotten a lot better at it, because when I started as a player, I could not have. It could not have been me. So yeah, let's get up, stretch, get a snack. I definitely need a snack. I'm gonna drink some more water, and we're gonna go on break. Pet your pets if you got them. Give them extra kisses. And please keep talking about your amazing PCs in chat. I'm gonna go and read some of this back. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, Puck, thank you for more sub. For those of you who oh my gosh, you just got your son groomed. Groomed baby. Pet, everyone. It's a pet. Yeah, go do all that stuff. I need a snack really bad, but I'm having such a good time seeing all of the things that you guys are posting in chat and everything that's going on, and I'll see you in 10 minutes for so much more fun. See you then. Hello, folks. We return. I'm really loving reading everyone's characters in chat. I got off and pet my cats, pet both of them. Couldn't find one of them for a minute because I do have black cats and my house is dark right now. But I did find them both. And I brought Watson over and he abandoned me. Because that's how this works. I brought him over to cuddle with him and he was fully disinterested and judged me and left. So, hi everyone, we're back. My cat has abandoned me, but that's fine. We're talking about building characters in tabletop and designing them using mechanics and letting the mechanics support storytelling, letting storytelling support mechanics, and the two in harmony, which I think is the best way to play tabletop on and off stream. I have so much fun doing it. Saw people in chat talking about playing with people who really get that that's the goal and the vibe. Not every table is that way. I don't play at those tables that aren't that way because that's just how I'm wired. And if I show up and people are like, why are you doing that? I'll be like, so I don't go here. I'm a theater kid. So let's jump back in. Let's talk a little bit about, so we've talked about spell casting. I'm going to talk a little bit about flavoring spells and how you can integrate them into your costume and your character design, as well as, I'm going to start actually with talking about some Hexblood stuff that I think is very cool, extremely like delicious to pull on for character design. So Hexbloods have this thing called Eerie Token. Little bit of body horror warning here, not a lot. Which is that Eerie Token, the way that you cast it, use it, because it is a feature, is you can remove a lock of your hair, one of your nails, or one of your teeth, imbuing it with magic until you finish a long rest, allowing you to take these actions. You can either do telepathic message or remote viewing. So you casually give a piece of yourself to somebody else, which is, I guess, a normal thing that the Fae do, and maybe no one else. And through that you can telepathically message with someone within 10 miles. Basically you have the message spell within 10 miles. and remote viewing, which is essentially a scry, but only on the thing that you gave them, within 10 miles of you. And so one of the things I like to think about with specifically this, and I've GM'd Hexbloods, I've played multiple Hexbloods, it's a thing that I love, is like, what are they pulling from? Why is that the thing? And then you have to explain like why you're giving it to someone. My most beloved Hexblood, my ice boy, Nyx, lived with disguise self on. He was pretending like he was a normal human boy. And it turned out that he had, because Hexbloods, part of the way that you can tell that they are Hexbloods is they're growing, usually like a crown of horns or some kind of horn or crown-like structure. And the way that he disguised it was he was like, oh, I'm just reaching into my hair, and then he would pull out a piece of ice shard, which is what he was growing, and he would give it to people, and they'd be like, why are you giving me this weird piece of ice that doesn't seem to melt? And he'd be like, don't worry about it, because he was also very secretive and kind of an annoying teenager. And then they'd just have where he'd like put ice in people's pockets, and they'd be like, why are you doing this? And then he would send them a message cold without explaining it later, because he was raised by the Fae and didn't really have any social graces in any way, shape, or form. He got better, kind of. Let's see here. We got a question about, you have a thought about this Hexblood trait. You are allowed, I would say right now, I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on this Hexblood trait. I've been kind of thinking of how to flavor what Awlee's change into a Fae might look like. Let's see here. Indie Wanderer is saying, I'm sorry, I started reading it on my other screen. Sends what if the way that Awlee sends messages and does stuff is through chipping off parts of their stained glass horns? I'm thinking that they can snap pieces off on the solder lines and use them to cast magic. They regenerate overnight, because they do. That is very fun. And you know, obviously in line with breaking off ice crystals, which were a very similar purpose. I'm kind of interested. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking like the combination of the because one of the inspiration points from last stream, if you weren't there, for Awlee is these colorful lanterns with beautiful colored glass on them, and I thought, well, that would be really beautiful to integrate into horns coming out of Awlee's head. And I'm thinking for these ones, they're more like tiefling horns than like the traditional Hexblood horns, which are kind of said to be like twigs or spines. I've seen them flavored as like mycelial threads, all kinds of stuff. And for these ones, I'm thinking they're more like horns, which is not, wrong. There's no wrong way to flavor, but even they're in line with like rules as written by being horns. And I kind of struggle with them being like broken off. But what I was thinking about also as a point of inspiration, kind of going with the fairy tale stuff, is also Finn the human from Adventure Time, and specifically his wooden arm. And I was thinking about Awlee having a little bit more of that fairy tale Pinocchio energy, and maybe having a wooden arm, and that's actually what he chips off with his tools, is just like, oh, I'm growing an extra little branch here. Here, have a stick. And it's me, the stick. I'm thinking about it. Because I also love that Hexbloods can go from very like mundane looking to being very Fey looking, and there's quite a range available. Ooh, I love that Indie Wanderer, that he carves in designs over time as he does this, and it doesn't actually grow back. It's not like hurting him, but it's just like a tree with bark, right? And he's just like ever so slightly putting in little designs to his arm. I love that. That's delightful. Yeah, I love the idea that maybe that's actually his like Hexblood thing, is that he's actually more transformed than a lot of other Hexbloods that I might create. I like making people who look human or look a certain normal way, and it's not that way. But I think that maybe we really lean into the like Finn the Humid of it all, and he's got like maybe a place where from that is like Fey magic, kind of like all kinds, like a mosaic of Fey magic kind of spreading across them. Ooh, I love magic tattoos. I think my thought on the magic tattoos, because that is an opportunity for the character to grow and change, would be that like the eventual goal, and this would be something that I would tell a GM, is that I'm interested in acquiring or making or meeting someone who could give me magical tattoos, because Dungeons and Dragons has multiple forms of magical tattoos available, and so to me that is actually a place of possible growth in a very cool way. It's a very good idea, Bliss Starbeam, and I think it's something that can be kind of, it can start in game as just like, this is how I do my Eerie token, but then imagine like 3 levels later, because I'm a very patient storyteller and I love being like, okay, so at level 10, we're level 6 right now, but at level 10 I want to do this thing, because that's one of those like little things that you could do that in the future you could acquire one of the like magic tattoos, or could get one tattooed as a story element, and then you like it's like evolution of that story, and like kind of, I think it's also a beautiful story about like having a relationship with yourself and your body after you've changed. Let's see here. Luigi Man says, there is a way for artificers to make spell tattoos or ones that increase their stats themselves with artificer infusions. Yes. The thing about infusions is that most infusions have to go onto objects. There is also an artificer infusion for a prosthetic, which makes it a like fully autonomous limb that I believe also can do magic things. I've kind of looked at some of that. I love the idea that this is actually just Awlee, though. Like, this is not a magical thing. This is just like Hexblood strangeness. And so like they just have a wooden limb. This is not like a prosthetic. They just are partly made of wood. That's normal for them. Can't decide if Lena's yelling at me or being excited. Okay, so I'm thinking that is a complete winner for the Eerie token, is the like wood carving and like slowly, I love the idea that it's like slowly becoming a mural, because then in that eventual future with magic getting imbued into it, then the mural can like be colored through magic or something like that. I'm very tickled by it. And like you can add like the faces of the rest of the party. You can add other people that are important to Awlee. If you multi-classed, like you could add other elements of the class there. So it's the idea that this goes back to what I was talking about when I was doing my Zynon makeup, is also that like I love thinking long game on how these concepts that everyone's in chat having really good concepts. And like we're talking around here about like really fun ways to flavor this stuff, but some of it I'll save for later. Some of it is like, okay, that's really delicious, but I'm going to save that for, you know, like 5 sessions from now. Or in the case of some of the stuff that I have planned, like I have things in my head about Zynon from before the show even started that we have not even seen yet about visuals and aesthetic choices. Because I play the longest game sometimes, and I will make aesthetic choices 2 years in advance. So yeah, that is the Eerie token. That is very cool. And I think that's enough like mechanics. You guys kind of get it, right? That like you take what's there and then you find like, why does this work? how does this happen? Things like spells, though, sometimes they offer you more like nitty-gritty, very specific things to add to your character, add to your costume. Think about how they do that. I love a spell component. I sat at the college of watching Liam O'Brien play a wizard for the first time in campaign 2 of Critical Role and went, that please, for all of my spellcasters, because he gets that magic is not just about pointing and doing a thing. It is also about the craft of holding, touching, manipulating. It is about your hands. It is about intention. It is about all of these things, and I love that so much. And I love the idea that every magic user casts magic a little different, even if they're a wizard that went to a school that trained next to the same person. I have like organizations of wizards in my homebrew setting, and I think often about how funny it is that all of these people are so different in how they cast magic spells and things like that, even though they all learn from the same book and the same professors. Okay, so looking at some of these spells, the ones that I wanted to kind of call attention to because they have fun little things to touch and kind of think about is as shown again in Critical Role, which I'm wearing my Mighty 99 shirt today because it was a very like well thought out, like we like spell components in this campaign and we're going to talk about it. Is copper wire. One of the things I love about a spell component that you can just say like, and I pull out a piece of copper wire. If you do it enough times, the people at your table, your GM, or if you have an audience, your audience will understand what that copper wire actually is, which is I'm casting the spell message because it is a physical material component of that spell. So if you pull tight a piece of copper wire across your mouth, people go, you're casting message. Or if you just decide what it looks like to use that copper wire in the spell message. And again, sometimes if you get really specific and consistent with it, you might take an L every so often for story reasons or decide why you don't. So like maybe there's one time when you can't do this, but you still have the copper wire in hand and you can do all the other stuff. Maybe you crunch it up in your hand. You go, I hope this works this time because this is not how I usually cast it. And you still cast it anyways, because that's the story. I love thinking about like where someone who uses message a lot might keep a piece of copper wire. Like, do they just have it if these are people who at some point were like teenagers with cell phones? Where do you keep that copper wire to then do it all the time, right? So I'm thinking for Awlee, maybe it would be fun if the arm is not like, it's not a biological arm, right? It is like a tree branch, essentially, that does move and animate. But I love the idea that maybe with tools and drills, they've actually put like channels for little like slicks, which is what they call it when you like make a space to store something very small for spy reasons. I know normal things. But like maybe Ollie's built a little like slick in their arm for a piece of copper wire. And so they just like pull that out and they're like, haha, hello. And then they put it back in. That amuses me. Little bit of body horror is a treat too. And I usually just go through and write down spell components. So actually, we saw an example of this in Transplanar in Arc 3, because Zynan's hunting equipment is based on real folkloric hunting equipment, and I went through and built a comprehensive list of folkloric vampire hunting equipment. It's very long. And I love that stuff. I love a shopping list. I love a spell component list. I love, these are all the things you have to carry. I just think it's neat. So I look at things like, let's see here, thorn whip, the stem of a plant with thorns. That makes sense. I love the idea that Awlee carries like a shriveled rose, like a rose stem that maybe even still has a bit of rose, just like maybe tucked somewhere convenient. Blisterbean says he turns his arm into a shelf to keep all his tools handy. But don't. Thank you for that. But yeah, like I genuinely though, I do think it's actually kind of neat, the idea that maybe they've built little like places to keep things into their clothes, into their arm, into their, you know, little details of who they are. Because I think one of the joys of playing an artisan is to play someone who this is what they think about all the time. Like this is, you're hearing what I think about all the time. I think about how to make character sheets do this. This is what my brain does, even when I'm not on stream, even when I'm not, you know, talking to other people about tabletop. I'm in the back of my mind going, how do I flavor that one thing that I want to do? Because that's just how my brain works. And so to that end, like allowing Awlee to also have a little bit of that hyperfixation of this is just the thing I do, and put it into their physicality by putting channels and grooves into their arm. God, Lena, you're right. Reinventing the 90s comic book pouches. You're right, Jason. Also because there are better things. There's better ways to carry stuff than pouches. So yeah, putting a like spined rose, like maybe even having carved a groove by casting Eerie Token enough times that maybe they've like laid in this old decayed like rose stem or something like that into their arm. Allows for like such cool design. Like I'm seeing this very well loved, almost like, you know, when you go to see a tree in a park that 1,000 people have just carved like one thing into. That's kind of how I feel about Awlee's arm, but it's also like a sketchbook. It's also like a fidget. It is also their workshop. It is, you know, all of these things and more brought with this person through their very complicated journey of being lost in the Feywild and coming out in the apocalypse. So yeah, I go through and I pull out a bunch of stuff. Petrified Eye of Newt. Gross. Although Eye of Newt is, I think, traditionally actually a plant, not an actual newt. And I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. Heroism is only verbal and somatic. I guess I could look at... Alarm has copper wire and a bell. Or silver wire and a bell. So it'd be another one of those like, oh yeah, I keep this in a pouch right here because every time we set up camp, I just lay out all of these things. Yes, Indie Wanderer, you get me. Mustard seed. Thank you, Jason. A bit of pork grinder butter. That is a hilarious spell component to me because it's one of those like, Awlee, why do you just have butter on you? Don't worry about it. It's for magic. Oh, that's gross and I love it. A small silver mirror. And like part of the whole point of spellcasting focus is that you don't always need these, but I like using them anyways. Blister Bean, added visual. I have in two old stems from roses I got from a show last month that I'm still keeping in water because even though the flowers are dead, the stems have started to bud, sprout new growth. I love that stuff. And like, yeah, the idea of there's like moss and things like that collecting. I love that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's kind of where I get the flavor. That is me taking the mechanics, and we've gone through and we've picked a lot of stuff out. And like, I obviously do the inventory. I've talked a little bit about that already. I love the idea that the crossbow has a little engraving from like when they were young, that kind of stuff. All of this like very almost like street art, but on a person in everything that they do, everything that they own, probably everything their sister owns is all just covered in these carvings and doodles and little bits of paint and little touches of almost like, that's what I'm thinking of with the arm. I'm thinking about tiny houses and the efficiency of small storage. And so like finding places for all of these things, etc. So let's jump on over to that HeroForge again. I'm going to make it full screen this time. Because I would love to just like very quickly sketch out who Awlee is. One of the things I do is like I said before, I do tend to cast, and I can't think of anyone off the top of my head as far as like a good casting for Awlee. This is something that sometimes takes me a very long time. Yeah, oh, Indie Wanderer, they're holding on to their humanity in the Feywild by flavoring it with touches of themselves. Yes, that is exactly it. So I'm going to change the face. Usually I would kind of, again, pick a face and then pick like an actor and then kind of flavor it around that, but I don't have that right now, so maybe in the future I'll go and find someone that I think would be a good choice for Awlee. I'm accepting pitches in chat currently. I'm thinking that they're probably like looking like they're in their 20s. I think this is a pair of people who are still quite young. Going now, Patrick. I see you. Oh God, I love him. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. These are things to chew on. This is I'm starting here. I'm not going to spend too much time focusing on the face because I'll come back to it. But we do need different hair. It cannot live this life. Yeah, already better. Already worlds better. I'm thinking that they cut each other's hair. I love imperfect haircuts. I do. I love them. I'm gonna pick... Oh my God, there's so much hair on here now. I'm gonna start here. I think this is a good starting point. Oh, look at this. Ooh, that's nice. What's the difference? Oh, it's receding. It's the hairline. Got it. I like this one. Oh no! Thank you, Indie Wanderer. I just didn't change it. I was so lost in the sauce. Here we go. Thank you everyone who pointed out that I did not change screens. You're the best. So I like this hair. There's a lot of hair options for those of you interested. This is the one that I had before I found this one. Where'd it go? Nope. It wasn't that one. It was this one. But I think it needs to be a little longer. I do like this one. Also, this new hairstyle is great. Good on you. And then we need some horns for those beautiful stained glass looking horns. I think they're going to be coming out from about there. Those are nice. I can angle those the right way. No, I'm wanting them to be more faceted. I know they have crystal horns. Where are they? And some of this, like, it does help to learn your tools. So for me, like, I use HeroForge all the time, and having a pretty good visual memory of what's here helps me do this kind of stuff and do it quickly. Where are those spiked stone horns? Maybe they're not available in this horn setting. Those could be good too. Stone horns. Those are, oh, those are huge. Jesus. I think this is a good starting point. I'm going to move them a little bit because I see them being a lot closer to the head. And the good news is you can do that on HeroForge. It's why we're here. Wow, they're giving very, like, Fey otherworldly. That was not my intention, and yet here we are. We're just gonna deal with this travesty of an outfit. Their base outfit, I get it. Everyone needs a base outfit. Even in costume shops, they put clothing on the mannequins. But I never play that character, so why I don't want that clothing on there. I already love these. That was just an accidental pick because I just wanted to start picking stuff. I want the apron though. That's my shirt goal. I need an apron. We are an artificer. Damn it. Leather armor with apron over. And, like, you don't always have to have your leather armor visible, in my opinion. There are perfectly normal ways to, like, conceal armor. And if anyone ever tells you otherwise, you can tell them that Kai said that I don't have to. You can send them straight to me. I could build on HeroForge forever. This is so dangerous. Where is that leather armor that I'm looking for? Because I want it to be one that we can kind of accessorize, but I don't want it to look too flashy and fancy. That's a spacesuit. Nope. Oh, that's cool. Oh, then we can have the wooden arm with the left arm. Vico Ortiz is not a bad pull. I'm obsessed with them. What is this? Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna start there. Give me the over. I want my apron, damn it. I think they listed in here as like a butcher's apron, and I never use it for that. Ever. It's always like, so this is my artificer. This is my potion crafter. I'm just gonna search. There's a search bar. I never use it. Ah, yeah, look at that. Oh, we're doing it, everybody. We've done it. Should all be very proud. Do we want gloves? Oh, these wrist warmers are so cute. But do we do symmetrical or do we only do one on the human hand? I think we only do one on the human hand because I want everyone to see that it's a wooden hand. Speaking of, I gotta go back to arms and see what kind of funky stuff I can get up to with a wooden arm. This is such a good starting point, actually. I'm very happy. Apron. Apron. Look at that. We're an artificer now, everybody. They're coming together, though. This is like this is a real character at this point. Give me arms. Show me your arms. I want it to look pretty humanoid, so this might actually be more of a paint texture. Because I don't need seams. Like, the point is that this is pretty... Yeah, I think this is good. Alright, let's go with shoes real quick. Gotta get some Feywild running shoes. Oh, I like this kind of patched look we've got going on in the lower half. That's really doing it for me. Mixed with this, like, very loose wrap. Yes, more real estate for detailing. Actually, this face is not bad for Vico. I think that we should... Let's just embrace that we're doing Vico Ortiz as Awlee. There we go. That's better. We've done it. Okay. For those of you who don't know, just gonna quickly search who they are. They're a Puerto Rican non-binary actor, icon, model, voice actor from Our Flag Means Death and 1,000 other things. non-binary gender goals. Okay. Okay, so to that end, I'm also going to slightly modify the body, just because I think looking at this now with the apron on and everything, this isn't even necessarily like how I think their body should actually look, but I just think that they're a little busty in a way I don't like for gender reasons. There we go. Because the apron really does just like puff that chest out a little bit. Show us your dice, if you insist. This one. All right, let's see here. I'm going to show you my big chunk. No, I'm going to show you my Perlin dice because they're right here and they're so pretty and they'll really show what this camera can show. By the way, that's my glass of cola there. Congratulations, you're going to occasionally see my drink. Okay. So these are Andromeda Lux from Everything Dice. They're so beautiful. Each and every one of them has a tiny little world inside of them. I'm going to show you the D6 up close. Because look at that. Look at how gorgeous they are. With the little pearl floating in there. So I think I told you before when I first showed you these dice, but my homebrew setting is called Perlin, and literally based on the word pearl, because the origin myth is that there was a pearl and a cosmic clam, and that was the world. And so when I saw these dice, I said, well, those have to be mine. They're just absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with them. Look at that shine on them too. God, this camera's amazing. You all rock. Let those hang out there. Alright, back to Awlee. Here they are. Extremely edible. No, bad. Puck has been a bad influence on you, Indie Wanderer. I'm gonna blame Puck. Okay, so here they are all dressed, I think, in a very acceptable adventuring outfit for an artificer. The only things that I think are really left are, as far as just like getting the general vibe, would be going through and adding their hammer. I think in hand is good. And I think it's just a simple little horseman's hammer, you say? Oh, that's huge. No. Don't scare me like that. I think it's just one of these guys. Oh, there we go. Nope, too big. That's a sledgehammer. Ball peen. Not that kind of hammer. We don't need that kind of crowbar. Spiked warhammer. There's so many good options on here. Comedically funny looking hammers. No, I think it's this guy. So then the only other stuff to just kind of like close us out for today would be things like adjusting the horns and kind of showing a little bit. Let's see, I want to do that. I want them to bend in more. I want them to be a little bit tighter on the head. A little bit more forward. Like that. Yeah. Maybe we'll sit and do color. It would be a lot of me sitting here and just going, no, that's not quite it. No, that's not quite it. Maybe. I'm gonna think about it. Next week, though, I do actually intend on starting just talking about sewing equipment too, sewing tools, because I'm gonna do a little bit of sewing teaching, and I'm gonna try and make it so that it is a very low impact thing where, if you would like to learn some very basic stitches, I'm hoping that it will be a way for you to just dip your toe in and have some basic sewing skills, so that you can fix your clothes, sew a button on, that kind of stuff, which I think is so important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about equipment, where to get it, how to handle it, how to store it, Not everyone needs to put it in a cookie tin. Not everyone needs to dedicate a whole section of their apartment to it. But having just like a small sewing kit goes a long way. We'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, I think this is a good stopping point for our Artificer for now. Our Hexblood Artificer. Maybe we'll color them soon. Think about it. Because I really want to get that arm. Maybe I'll just do it right now because I really want the arm, y'all. It's gonna have to be a decal, I think, on that arm. I think that'll be a good way to do it. Go that way. Now I need you to mirror. Vertical split faded. Vertical split not faded. Now I want it to fade. Whoa, they have new tattoos in here. Oh, they're sync. That's cool. I do want you to flip though. Why don't you have a mirrored setting? That's fine. We'll make it work. I did look at the different like limb options and they didn't do it for me, so I'm just doing it myself. Because I need it because it's such a cool idea. I like that this kind of looks like skin tone, actually. That really... There we go. Wooden hand. I'm going to change the fingers and stuff on this hand, though. And then the thing I would also add... and just so you all know, the change in the other arm is so that I can make it flesh tone. Make them kind of tan. Like that. Yeah, we're getting there. Look at that. I know it's eerie without the eye colors and everything, but then we can do stuff like this with the decals again and layer on some wood texture and find things that kind of give wood texture. I think that's a good one. And then we'll do a little bit of carving on the wood texture. I just saw it. There we go. Okay, so I'll show you really quick what I did before I start to talk about what's going on for the rest of the week. Wood colors. Do a different color wood. Polished area of wood. And then we'll do like a really carved section of light wood. There we go. Wow, that's really fun. Oh, there's more. That's so fun, everyone. I'm a little obsessed. I'm not gonna lie. Then we just add a little bit of color. I'm doing fun wild colors. I don't think that they would have normal blacks and browns. I want yeah, like a purpley gray. That was kind of my thinking there. So yeah, there's the beginnings of Awlee as a HeroForge using all the things we talked about today. I hope that was helpful, insightful about, a little bit more about at least my process, ways to approach reflavoring mechanics. Yeah, good times, y'all. Maybe next time we will color Awlee and do, because now we go into the Pinterest board elements in which we lose me forever. But I would love to maybe keep working on Awlee with all of you. But also, as I was saying, I'm going to talk a little bit about sewing tools and things like that, because now we can talk about teaching a little bit of sewing, and it probably won't even be a whole stream. I don't want to overload you all, because this isn't like, come do homework with me. I might just show you like a stitch every so often. But my goal is to just show you like one thing every so often that will hopefully be helpful for you in your life, and how to practice and take care of your clothing, because mending is not only a act of love for your material possessions and the things that you own, but also it is a way to take care of the world, because fast fashion is one of the largest things filling up landfills. So being able to use clothes, reuse clothes, is actually so important for like the environment, among other things. And then you don't have to get rid of stuff that you like. So yeah, that was Awlee. And me, Kai, you can find me back here on Wednesday with more Baldur's Gate. We're going to go take our tiefling druid Aspen. Got a lot of A names. I do this a lot, actually. I like A names. I don't know. We're going to take Aspen further into the crashed Nautiloid site and continue to hear me yell about Gale of Waterdeep and all of my feelings about the characters of Baldur's Gate 3. It's going to be a good time. And then what else is happening this week? Oh, Thursday, I think, is the only other thing I have going on this week, which is more Lori's House. Hold on. Let me open my calendar. That would be so helpful. I release a calendar every week. It would help if I looked at it. Yes. Okay. Thursday is the 4th episode of Lori's House. I cannot believe we're already episode 4. Hello, Nightbot? There we go. I just can't spell. It's not Nightbot's fault. It's my fault. So yeah, we'll be back with an all-new episode of Lori's House, which is a Home We Remember actual play, which is a forthcoming game from Full Despair Studios. In Lori's House, it is a podcast AP about community and the selfless act of self-exploration, where I got to play the architect, which is the GM role in a tarot-based game where we interact with the characters' memories and change and become by exploring who we have been and where we have been, and also what is time. It is a magical realism story about exploring who you are to make the world the way you would like it to be. It is a wonderful story that I really enjoyed telling, and I'm so excited every time a new episode comes out. I run off and I go listen to it. So check out episode 4. You can also check out episodes 1 through 3 out everywhere you pod your casts already, and they're like under an hour and a half, I think, each, and they're beautifully edited. Love it so much. And you can also check out there's some amazing notes that Humna, Lilith's TTRPG on all social media, who is our executive producer and the main writer of The Home We Remember, has been publishing amazing game notes about the thought process, about the stuff that we all put into The Home We Remember, as well as things that are then very relevant in Lori's House. So you can go check all of that out. You can check out I'm going to open up Humna's thing. But other than that, all of my shows had finales last week, basically. But stay tuned, because I have some new stuff that should be announced imminently, where you can find me back in one of my usual haunts here in LA on Happy Jack's RPG very soon. with some very familiar faces that I love playing with over there. And I got some other stuff in the works, but we'll get to that later. In the meantime, thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for helping me build Awlee. I'm obsessed with this story that we've been crafting together. It seems like you are all also as excited about it as I am, which has been super fun to share with you all. And I hope that this is useful in your story crafting and your exploration of what it means to play tabletop and tell stories to other people. It is one of my favorite callings in life. I was looking for who we're raiding. I'm going to go find someone very cool to raid. I think it's going to be Mr. Loveland's Valiant Dorian, my beloved. He is currently streaming. I think he's playing Rivals. He definitely is. So you can go check out Val. So stay tuned for the raid. And in the meantime, I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye, everybody.